Guys, we're in the middle of a pandemic and these are trying times. It's hard on our mental health, our mental state. And this is why I love our sponsor today, BetterHelp. They're the largest online counseling platform worldwide. They change the way people get help with facing life's challenges by providing convenient, discreet, affordable access to licensed therapists. BetterHelp makes professional counseling available anytime, anywhere, through a computer, tablet, or smartphone. It's brilliant. Sign up today. Go to betterhelp.com/solvinghealthcare and get 10% off sign-up fees. Welcome to Solving Healthcare. I'm Kwadwo Kyeremanteng. I'm an ICU and palliative care physician here in Ottawa and the founder of Resource Optimization Network. We are on a mission to transform healthcare in Canada. I'm going to talk with physicians, nurses, administrators, patients and their families because inefficiencies, overwork, and overcrowding affects us all. I believe it's time for a better healthcare system that's more cost-effective, dignified, and just for everyone involved. Quadcast Nation, I am so excited to bring to you this episode with Jeremie Saunders. This man is legend. He's an actor. He's a producer. He's a TEDx speaker. Bad boy's even a yoga instructor. And he co-hosts one of the most profound, awesome podcasts that you could ask for, Sickboy, and talking about terminal illnesses and chronic disease, getting the perspective of patients and families. Honestly, the show is incredible, and it's a true privilege to have him on the show. What we talk about is his experience with cystic fibrosis. He got diagnosed at about 18 months old, and really hearing his perspective on how knowing that he's got a terminal illness, how that has changed his approach to life, how it impacted his views on death, how he's embraced comedy and the creative side for coping and to create connection, and the community he's built too through the podcast and his platform. Honestly, this guy's special. He really is. He's got amazing energy. He's hilarious. As you're going to hear, we both have an affinity for Tracy Morgan. You'll hear about us talking about ghetto mating calls and so forth. But yeah, it's a bit on the explicit side. So if you're in the car with your kids, you might want to save it for another day. But this is a special episode. So without further ado, Jeremie Saunders. Quadcast Nation. Yeah. Man, I got to tell you, this one is exciting. This one I've been looking forward to for about a month. Jeremie Saunders, who I got to appear on Sickboy not that long ago. And I don't know how we ended up meeting, but I feel like we're a match, boy. This is going to be this is going to be fun. And for those that don't know Jeremie, like we mentioned in the intro, actor, producer, podcaster, Sickboy, TED speaker, and
why not? Yeah,
why not? And advocate, and agreed to go on Solving Healthcare on the Quadcast, and we're going to learn a lot on this and have just a great conversation. So, Jeremie, first of all, I got to ask a bit of an awkward question: cystic fibrosis. Maybe we could just hear your story because, this is typically a disease that you get diagnosed at an early age and obviously affects your perspective in life. And maybe just walk us through how you found out, how it's affected your lives. Because I think, cystic fibrosis, a lot of people have heard of it, but I don't know if they truly understand what it's like to live through, what the life expectancy is like. So if you could walk us through that, Jer.
Yeah, man. So first of all, thank you for having me on the Quadcast. It is an absolute pleasure. Thanks, I might need to put this out there. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Oh, you could cuss away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to try to, but I come from a family of Newfoundlanders, and my dad's got a sailor's mouth, and it definitely rubbed off on me. So I'll try to be on my best behavior. But it's a big question. CF is it's such an interesting, fascinating, complex disease. I think all diseases are probably rather complex and interesting and fascinating in their own ways. But CF is definitely one that comes with a massive swath of symptoms and these like little quirks that a lot of people just like have no clue about. And I'm still to this day like learning about them. And I'm a 32-year-old man. I've lived with it my entire life. So, I mean, I guess like to take it way, way back, it's a genetic disease. So I was born with it. My parents found out that I was living with cystic fibrosis when I was 18 months old. So that's when I got the diagnosis, 18 months. Okay. And I think I don't entirely recall their side of the story, but what I think was happening was I was having trouble with my digestion as a baby. And so that was what kind of like led them to inspect a little more. They were trying to get these tests done. They were living in Newfoundland. They were, you know, it was like over the span of a number of months, 6 months or so, where they were trying to get to the bottom of it. Actually, my dad has this crazy story where due to some of the symptoms that I was showing, it was like, you know, this was way back in 1988. This was before Google. This was before people could hop on Google and like, you know, my baby's doing this on Google. What is it? Right. What do they have? What does it mean? But there was like a variation of that in the 80s that my parents stumbled into. And it was like, because my mom was a nurse and she heard through the grapevine that like these things that I was showing, these symptoms I was showing could be, could mean that I was a CF baby. And my mom was kind of like, she's very pragmatic. She's very logical. She was like, okay, well, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. But my dad was kind of like, fuck, I think that's what it is. Like, I think my dad's not a doctor, not a nurse, not a healthcare professional, whatsoever. He works in automotive parts, auto sales. So he's like, he's convinced that I've got CF. And so he's kind of panicking and he's talking to somebody who knows somebody who has a baby with CF. And this guy tells him, my dad's name is Cobb. He says, Cobb, listen, I heard from my buddy that he knew his son had CF after he licked the back of his baby's neck and he tasted salt, like really intense salt. And my dad was like, that's what I'm fucking doing. So he went home, he took me, he put me in the bath, washed me down. He got me really clean in the bath. And then he took me out of the bath after washing me, dried me down just to make sure, you know, like I wasn't like full of like baby sweat or whatever. Got me nice and clean, dried me up, licked the back of my neck, tasted salt, and his heart broke. Like he knew in that moment, he went, fuck, it's CF. Man. He told my mother, my mother was like, Cobb, you need to calm down. But then sure enough, they did, I guess they did a sweat test. I'm not really sure how they did it back in 88 in Newfoundland. But anyway, they found out I had CF. And very soon after that, my parents uprooted their entire life in Newfoundland and moved to here where I'm at right now, Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is my hometown, to get closer to the IWK, which is like an astounding children's hospital, one of the best children's hospitals in the country.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my journey of living with CF. You know, I've always known that I had it. I've never not known that I've lived with CF. But a pretty pivotal moment in my life was when I turned 10 years old, around 10. That was the moment that I learned or came to realize that cystic fibrosis was actually a fatal disease.
My God. And
I came to find that out on my own. My parents never told me. The reason my parents never told me was because they were told by the CF team at the time not to tell me. I think that was like kind of the protocol back then. I think that's changed now. But yeah, so I found out on my own and it totally fucked me up. I read it in a pamphlet that was intended for my teachers to kind of give them an idea of what it would be like to have a child with CF in their class. And that moment when I was 10, you know, that I think it was probably one of, if not the most, it was the moment that shaped me into exactly who I was going to be. Like it was the most pivotal moment of my entire life. There was me before that moment and what my life would have looked like if that incident didn't happen. I'm not really sure. But after reading that pamphlet, it totally took my life and put it on a completely different trajectory, I think.
Man, like you're 10.
So yeah, it's 10 years old. It was really hard to wrap my head around. I remember reading it and going, actually, I talk about this in one of my talks. Like I read it, and like at the time I was a Mortal Kombat fanatic. I loved Mortal Kombat. And, you know, at the end of Mortal Kombat, you know, you're fighting and you unlocked Smoke and you're fighting Jax and you get it down and then it's like finish him. And then you press the special like button combination and you get fatality across the screen. So I knew what the word fatal was. I knew what that meant. But then reading the specifics of like at the time what was written there was like, you know, the average life expectancy of someone living with cystic fibrosis is 30 years of age. At 10 years old, to read that and to think to myself like 30, like I'm already 10. I can only do what I've done this far in my life 2 more times and then I'm dead. You know, like the rug was just pulled right out from underneath me. And I think what I did was I buried it. I took that info and I was like, fuck this. I'm not worried about that. And I just like stuffed it so far down. But what happened was that, you know, I ended up harboring a lot of anger towards my mom and my dad for not telling me, and never came to realize that until I was, until I hit my 20s. And it definitely took a toll on our relationship as like in my youth, you know?
Can I ask, Jared, like, number one, like as a 10-year-old, like I can't imagine, like I got 3 kids and our oldest is 8. And when I remember specifically him, when he started being more aware of the concept of death, he was petrified. He was scared. He had a million questions. And as a 10-year-old, you feel like you're immortal. Like you feel like it's not even a concept that it's on your radar. Like you're not having necessarily people your age that are sick, or sometimes grandparents maybe, but like, I just can't imagine the headspace. And like, you kind of answered the question already, like you buried it, but was there anything that was freeing or that helped, you know, come to terms with things? Like, was there someone to talk to? Was there anything or religion, like, was there anything that was, that helped you kind of navigate through that craziness?
Yeah. Not then. Not at that time, unfortunately. I mean, it's funny, like you say, religion. I was raised Roman Catholic, and it was about around the time of like 10 to 12. It was around the time of my life where I started to completely lose faith in religion, and started to see it from a perspective where it just didn't really make sense to me. But I do remember, I remember pre finding out that it was fatal and being sick and, you know, like being held home from school or being sent into the hospital for a lung infection and, you know, staying in there for 2 weeks on end or whatever. And I remember like praying, you know, like praying. I remember praying 2 times. I remember praying to a god or God, whatever I'd imagined was up there. I think I pictured like a pretty stereotypical, like white beard, big dude looking down, like, you know, casting judgment and causing miracles. So I was like, I had 2 things. I was like, why do I have this? And can you change it? And then I want to be taller. I want to be really tall. Like those are the 2 things I was praying for. Like I was like, I want to be able to slam dunk a basketball, and I don't want CF. Like I mean, it doesn't have to be both. It can be one or the other.
Yeah.
But if you give me at least one of these things, I know you're real. And then, you know, that went long enough where the miracle didn't happen. And I started to go, this is bullshit. So the timing, but all that to say that the timing of losing my faith kind of started coming around the same time that I found out that it was fatal.
Wow.
And again, I didn't have anyone to talk to. And when I say I stuffed it down, like, I mean, I really stuffed it down. Like I not that I was in the closet with CF. I was never hiding it so much that like it was impossible to know. Like some people I know who were like closeted CFers for so long. My friend Steph Stavros, I think she like first started telling people when she was in her 30s, and it's crazy how she hid it. I was never like that, but I definitely was ashamed, and I was definitely embarrassed. Like, you'd never catch me taking my pills. I would be very sneaky about it. Yeah, I take like 40 pills a day. I would never let anyone see me doing my nebulizer, which you can see. If I can get
the white machine in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would never be caught dead doing that in front of people. And when I was hospitalized, I would try to come up with some sort of excuse as to why I was out of school. But it wasn't until I went to theater school. It wasn't until university. When I started to explore all of my creative outlets, and especially through writing, that I started to see that there's a story worth telling here for two reasons. It's worth telling for myself to undo a lot of pent up, fucked up, tangled confusion and anger. And it's also worth telling because even though I don't know many people that have CF, the hardships that I've been through are still relatable. We all go through shit. We all go through hardships. We all have the things that we struggle to deal with. And so in being open and sharing the hardships that I've been through, maybe it will allow someone to see the world through a bit of a different lens so that they can look back at the stuff that they've been through and find solace and find peace with the challenges that they've faced. So it really wasn't until I started to express myself creatively that I started to like find peace with that idea of like, I'm going to die. We're all going to die. What the fuck? Who am I? How, like, I'm not special. Like, I might die before most of my peers, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to die like pretty soon after, in the grand scheme of things. And so, that like, it was around that time where I started to embrace the idea of death as opposed to fear it and hide from it and hate it.
Oh, man, but I got to tell you, Jer, like, without hearing the stories of the people you've impacted, I know you've impacted many lives. Hearing that perspective on, death is a reality, the struggles that you have gone through individually, whether it be CF, whether it be cancer, whatever it might be, you're not alone. And just being an example of facing it like in front of you. And using those outlets, whether it's creativity through the arts, through its writing, through whatever it might be, through dialogue, through blogging, like whatever it might be, is such an important example. And I can't imagine, like, especially with your platform, how many people have reached out and told you how you've impacted their lives, man. Like, I'll tell you this much.
It's astounding.
Even you came and gave a talk to our palliative care group who, we see death and dying on a regular basis. And I know you've impacted us.
That's one of those things that, again, like I'm not a religious person, but I don't believe in like fate or divinity or anything like that. But I do believe that like we can find a purpose. I do believe that like, I don't believe I was put on earth for any particular reason. I don't think anybody's been put here for any particular reason, but I think we can create the reason why we should be here, right? Like create the the purpose that you have in your life. And over the last like 10 years or so, it's definitely I didn't know it at first, but I was just unknowingly like forming this shape out of like clay. And eventually I started to see what that clay piece was. And it was doing this. It was creating a life where sharing my own bullshit and encouraging others to share theirs in the hopes that it causes massive effect on a large group of people in many different ways. And, you know, I think death is kind of like probably the peak, like the number one theme that I try to relate everything to, because it's just the thing that I've meditated on so much for my entire adult life.
Mm-hmm. And maybe if you got some examples off the top of your lid, like stories or people that you've impacted just by you telling your story.
Yeah, you know, there's the amount of like, so Sickboy is the podcast that's kind of like taking up all the energy in my life in a really good way. And it's the idea of the podcast is that we speak to people living with chronic or terminal disease for the most part. And with the intention of trying to find levity or humor that exists within that human experience. Mm-hmm. Right. So like stage 4 cancer isn't fucking funny. Like that's not a funny diagnosis to get. That's not a funny, there's nothing fun or funny about that. But I argue that there is humor to be found within the experience of going through it. Mm-hmm. And if we take that time to try to root, and it takes effort, right? To mine for that humor, to dig deep and to find the levity that exists there, it makes the experience a whole hell of a lot easier. Mm. And so, you know, with Sickboy, we've spoken to, I think we've published over 300 episodes now. Mm-hmm. And we've talked to everybody from, you know, people living with CF, terminal cancer, Crohn's, colitis. We're speaking to someone with ALS later today. You know, wow. Bipolar, schizophrenia. I mean, like you name it, we've gone there. And out of all those episodes, I would say for every one episode we publish, we receive anywhere from 1 to 20 letters, emails, direct messages from people who have listened, who have been affected by it. So let's say it's on average we get, and even go low, like on average five messages per episode that we put out. Mm-hmm. 5 times 300. I'm not a fucking mathematician. You're a doctor. You can probably figure that out way quicker than me. I went to
1,500
school, for God's sakes. Yeah, thanks. You know, that's a lot of people reaching out to tell you that something that they heard, someone that they had listened to, something had connected. And I can't really think of one off the top of my head because there's so many, but the through line, the messaging that seems to be very similar throughout a lot of these people that reach out is like, hey, I just want to let you know that the conversations that you are having on this show have completely changed the way that I relate to my own illness, or have completely changed the way that I communicate with my friends or my family about my illness, or completely changed the way that I communicate with my husband who's living with an illness. The thing that I feel like I'm constantly seeing is like, it's changing the way that it's changing people's relationships, whether that's relationship to themselves or the relationships with the people that they find themselves close to. And, oh man, I just like it. It makes me heart feel so rich. And let me fucking tell you, I don't mean monetarily, because there's not much money in podcasting, but I feel so rich, like I feel, I feel so wealthy, to know that, people are tuning in, and to know that it's doing something really special for them. And to know that I've been a part of that.
Absolutely. And let me just echo too, Jeremie, like the magic of the show is you are allowing people to enhance connection. They're more connected. Mm-hmm. They're more connected to their illness. They're more connected to the people around them. You're communicating. Mm-hmm. Like, I think people are having more authentic conversations with their loved one as a result of what they're listening to on Sickboy. I got to tell you, there was one episode I should know. Forgive me I can't remember your friend's name that passed, but he had stage 4 melanoma.
Leighton.
Yeah, Leighton. And man, I was literally walking. It was a time where I was maybe a couple of days before I was showing up on your show, and I remember stopping in my tracks after a while, just listening to a story, and just the way you guys are talking about him too, because the guy that sounded like he was, like levity and comedy was part of his game, and how
he had a good sense of humor. Yeah. Yeah.
And, it would stop me. I don't know why I'm going to get emotional here, but when you expressed, when he started to lose that sense of humor, that's when you knew things were getting serious. And I don't know where I went there, but just to say that it really hit me, and hearing that story, you appreciate how the show can create connections, how people have a better understanding of some of these terminal chronic illnesses, just walking people through the experience. Because I think people, you hear a friend or a colleague, they have a terminal illness and they're sad because they know they're going to die. But I don't know if people really sit with what it's like for that person, what they're mentally, spiritually, physically. And just, it was just that hearing that story about Leighton, it just kind of hit me too. Like, and I live, like I said, ICU and palliative care, I see death on a regular, but it was such a, I don't know, it was just such a, it just hit me for some reason. I'm having trouble articulating it. That moment when you're saying like that comedy, that his sense of humor just seemed lost. And just, I guess having to see you guys live through that, see that, his wife see that, and did he have a kid? Did he have
Finn,
a young? Oh man. Anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is the show's a gift, and everyone needs to listen to this because I'm sure everyone's got a loved one going through something chronic or terminal, and so I think what you guys are doing is special, my friend.
Thank you, man. It really means a lot coming from you. That really does mean a lot. Absolutely. It means a lot.
I also want to, and we kind of touched on it too, but I think it's worth, once again, because I think CF and cystic fibrosis it's good to increase the awareness of it in general, but you've alluded to having to go to hospital in and out, but give a sense to the people out there, like what it's actually like. Because, yes, you're going to be hospitalized. Yes, you got 40 medications. You got to take pills. You got to take a day. But people, like, it's also important to mention, like, these are your breath. It's an issue with breathing. And so, like, on the day-to-day basis, like, what is that like for you, Jeremie, or over the years?
Yeah. So, CF it's a genetic disease that affects multiple organs throughout the body. And, long story short, the body has this inability, because of a genetic mutation, it has this inability to like clear out airway surface liquid or mucus. And that mucus buildup, it affects the pancreas. It affects the the liver. It affects organs all throughout the body. It affects my reproductive organs even. But really, it really affects the lungs for a lot of people that live with CF. So the two big ones for me are my lungs and my digestion. In terms of my digestion, my pancreas, which is the organ that plays a big role in absorption of food, right? So it produces this enzyme that in a regular normal, I shouldn't say normal or regular, in a normie, someone who's some regular muggle who's totally healthy, their pancreas is going to produce this enzyme enough that it breaks down the food. They can take the nutrients from the food, and then they can like easily shit that food out. Typically, okay. I don't produce that enzyme, so I got to take oral enzymes every single time I eat. And even then, when I eat, I'm still not like pulling in the fats that I need. I'm still not taking enough of the vitamins and the nutrients from the food. So I got to supplement that with vitamins and what have you. But if I didn't take those enzymes, it starts to build up like, it starts to like bung up the intestines. And so I've always had a bit of an issue with my digestion. So much so to the point where I've suffered intussusception twice. Once when I was in my teens, and then once again in 2017. And in 2017, it was so bad that they actually had to go in and remove 70% of my large intestine. And in that process, the surgeon, poor surgeon, she accidentally nicked my my gallbladder. So that had to fucking go too. She ruined my gallbladder. So again, and your gallbladder plays a pretty big role in like helping you break down fats and stuff. So, that's definitely like been hard, losing a big chunk of your insides and then trying to as an adult, find this new relationship to your body and how your body is now going to work now that, a big chunk of the machine is gone. Then when it comes to my lungs, the lungs, so what's happening is this buildup of mucus. It provides this wonderful breeding ground for bacteria. And that can lead to, very easily lead to lung infections. A common cold in the upper airway system can easily find its way down into the lungs and turn into something really, really awful like pneumonia. And so over a lifespan of infections and buildup of mucus and coughing, there's what happens to the lungs is fibrosis, scarring. So cystic fibrosis, it's the scarring within the lungs itself. And that scarring leads to a decline in lung function. So currently my lungs are functioning. It's kind of been hovering over the last couple of years between low 60s, like 61, and mid 50s. And for people living with CF, the CF Canada has made this statement 1,000 times before, but they equate living with CF to a normal person breathing through a straw. So if you were to take a full deep breath in right now from an empty set of lungs, and that's 100% lung capacity, now imagine what that would feel like if you could only get in 50% of what you just took in. And that's me on a good day, right? People who live with CF who start to really decline, their lungs kind of drop down to 30, 20%. That's where you're looking at that's like end stage CF, right? And for folks that are at that point in their life, there's really only one option. Well, there's two options, I guess. There's you die, or you get lucky enough to get set up with a new set of lungs. Double lung transplant is pretty common in the CF community. It's saved a fuckload of lives over the years. There's a couple of people out there in Canada who've had 2 double lung transplants already. There's one lucky fucker out there who's had 3 double lung transplants. And it's not a road that I want to go down. It doesn't seem fun to have a doctor open up my chest cavity, remove a set of lungs that are, garbage, and then put in some foreign lungs. But that all could change because there's this like really incredible drug that just got that exists and people can get their hands on in the US, in the UK, 16 other countries across the world. Right now, it's not available in Canada, but there are steps that are being taken to get us there, and we're crossing our fingers that within the next year, Trikafta will be available for people that live with CF. But Trikafta is like kind of this pipe dream third option, right? So death, lung transplant, or get your hands on Trikafta. And Trikafta, it's a precision medicine. It's a modulator. So it basically treats at the source rather than just treating the symptoms. And from what I gather, the stats are pretty astounding, but the average lung function increase for people who get on Trikafta is upwards of like 20% increase. So if I got that today, let's say I'm sitting at 60% lung function, and I got all of a sudden a boost of 20% to my lungs. I haven't been breathing with 80% lung function I can't remember the last time. I would have been 15 maybe. Like that I don't even know. I can't even wrap my head around what that would actually feel like.
Wow.
So on a day-to-day basis, if I'm having a good day, I won't be coughing like this. On a good day, I could walk by you on the street, or I could hang out with you for the whole day, and you might not even realize I have CF unless you catch me taking my pills. On a bad day is really bad. A bad day is like zero energy, hard to catch my breath in, hard to breathe out enough air. Really intense stomach pains, feeling like super dehydrated. There's this other really weird thing about CF is that like my body doesn't get the signals to drink water. Like I like forget to hydrate, which leads to these like horrible headaches, these like dehydration headaches. So like the bad days suck. The bad days are bad, but I think I think that if I looked at a calendar still I'm 32 still, if I looked at a calendar and I did a check mark for the good days and an X for the bad days, I think the good days are outweighing the bad days right now. And it's because I've just been really taking care of myself, staying up with my, like keeping on top of my treatments. I do that nebulizer on my desk there 2 times a day for about 45 minutes each time. Like I said, I'm taking, 40 meds, 40 pills a day on average. Physical exercise is like massively important.
Nice.
Yoga's played a pretty big role in my life since my early 20s. And so having a constant practice has been really good. Yeah, and that all sounds really shitty, and it all sounds, and it is, it's not fun. It kind of sucks. But one kind of plus side, and I found this out when I was like 20 years old. 97%, I believe, don't quote me, 97 or 98% of people that live with CF are infertile. And I found out that I was infertile when I was like 20. And man, I was so stoked. But to find out that like I don't have to worry about getting my girlfriend pregnant at the time, I was elated. It was such great news. So that's one plus side to CF. If you don't want pregnant. Kids,
no one's getting pregnant.
No.
Oh my God, I love it. Sorry, just in case that this comes across really insensitive on the, because you can't see, but we both have an affinity, like a love for Tracy Morgan. So we were both just doing his ghetto meeting call. And he loved, just because Tracy loves getting things pregnant. Buddy, that is, it's a great perspective, I guess, looking at the positive. I got to ask too, but like, you know, because it sounds like you got some great approaches to staying healthy right now. And there'll be a lot of people listening with chronic illness and disease, and that, you know, are always looking at ways to improve their well-being. So like, how much of, you know, when it comes to going through all this, how much do you relate to, you know, the physical side, like the yoga side? How much do you relate to some of the mindset? Like, I know, you know, when I think of yoga, I also think of it as being a bit of a meditative practice too. Like, like how, well, let me rephrase the question. Let me actually ask a question. How much mindset element of this do you find is allowing you to cope with all this?
Yoga is one of those great things. So I'm a certified yoga teacher, and I was teaching for about 10 years. I took my first yoga class from my wife. She taught me my first yoga class. She was just a pal at the time, and it blew my mind. And after becoming a yoga teacher, there's this really fun thing that you witness as a teacher. You're sitting at the desk and you have people coming into the studio signing up for classes, right? And without fail, there's always a new student that shows up. And this person comes in. I was teaching Moto Yoga. It's a chain of hot yoga studios across Canada down through the United States. Wonderful community. So it's hot yoga, right? We would get people come in. There's a new student. They would come in. They would say, "Hey, this is hot yoga, right?" And we're like, "Yep." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Like, I'm going to sweat a lot. Yeah, 100%. Like, definitely going to sweat. And I'm going to lose tons of calories. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's dependent on like heart rate and stuff like that. Sure, but and then they're like, "Cool. Like, is this going to like help me lose weight?" And it's like, "Well, I mean, this is going to be good for your body, okay?" So they're coming in there with this, like, I want to get fit. I got to get my beach body going. I want to like look good. I want to feel strong. I want to be able to touch my toes. Like it's all physical, right? You see that person, you see that in their face. You see that in their energy. Like, I'm here to like get my fucking body jacked.
Yeah.
They go in the studio and they're practicing that way. They're practicing like they're breathing heavy, and they're like looking around. They're competing with everyone. They're competing with themselves. They're trying to like push their body. And then they leave, and they're on like a 1 month intro, right? They come back like 2 days later. The body's all sore. They're like, "Well, yeah, that really like that kicked my ass. Like, I'm ready for another one." They come in, they do the same thing, same kind of like intensity, you know, but like you start to see like, it's a little slower this time. It's like maybe they're like listening to the teacher. They're listening to the instructor a little more. And they go and they come back again a couple days later. It's like they've slowed down a little bit more this time. And they're listening to the teacher. And you can hear them now. You can hear them breathing on like this consistent level. Then they go and then they come back. And now they're zoning in. And the intensity drops every time they come over the span of this month. And by the end of the month, they sign up for like, you know, whatever. They get the membership. And then you like check in with them like, you know, 3, 4, 5 months later. And the practice has nothing to do with the physical part. It's all the mental part.
Wow.
And what happens is like they get tricked. It's like this sneaky form of meditation that kind of comes out of nowhere and you're not expecting it. And then it grabs you and you're hooked and then you're in. But there's this really great plus side to it, which is you actually are doing something really wonderful for your physical body as well. Mm-hmm. You're strengthening, you're toning, you're working on flexibility. You're keeping your joints in good form. You're keeping your posture in good form. It's good for your knees. It's good for your back. All the while, it's good for your brain. It's good for your mind. It's good for your soul. It's good for what makes you you. All yoga is moving. It's just meditation, but with movement added to it. It's just moving meditation. And so, why would someone like myself who lives with CF, or why would someone who lives with diabetes, or someone who lives with, you name the illness, why should they be taking time I shouldn't should anyone, but why could they benefit from taking a yoga class or starting a yoga practice? Well, you got to keep your body in shape. You got to keep your body in form. This is your tool. This is what gets you around. This is like when this starts to degrade, everything else degrades. You need to have the vessel to properly go about your day. But you also, especially people who are living with chronic disease, you need to take care of what's going on up here. Depression, anxiety, those are two like legit comorbidities that go along hand in hand with cystic fibrosis, but not just CF. That goes along with any chronic disease that anyone's going through. It takes a toll on your mental health. And so it doesn't have to be yoga. That's just what it was for me. For you, it might be cycling. For you, it might be swimming. For you, it might be CrossFit. But doing something that actively moves your body, but also gives you time to like find clarity and listen to your breath and slow things down. Like that is so crucial. And that's played a pretty big role in like me protecting and maintaining my own sanity, especially now with like everything that we're going through with COVID. Mm-hmm. That mixed with like two other things, which is having a solid crew around me of people that I love and that I trust and that only lift me up. And then, my love of laughter, like those three things are like the things that keep me just mentally sound. I guess the fourth thing would be like stimulating my creative. I have this need to create. Yeah. And if I don't do that, I get really sad. But so that too. So four things. That's my personal.
No, I mean, those are all pretty beautiful. And I think it's pretty uniform for a lot of people around the world, man. Like moving, taking time for clarity, which I think maybe the gift of COVID has been people might have more time for that. I don't know if they are, but certainly I could say that it's essential, and you hit the nail with the mental side, we see it every day in the ICU. Those that are more struggling with their mental health, their recovery is slower. They're not getting out of bed. They come off the ventilator slower, so it's so important. And it ties in, mental health ties into everything as far as I'm concerned. And then I think this is where you and I have a lot in common. And I think I need a little bit more of this in my life personally. It was the laughter side, we're talking specifically in chronic illness, but just in life in general, I think, ask yourself, are you laughing enough? Like there's no, I don't know. It's just, it brings you back to when you were innocent, happy. It's like, and it creates a community sometimes. Like you're usually not laughing on your own. You're usually with your loved ones. You're usually with your friends, the people that lift you and create that atmosphere where you're having a good time. You're talking about, Uncle Jim at the dinner table when he's taking off his shirt and talking about a ghetto mating call. Like it just like all these things I think are important for getting through life.
Laughter isn't just like I want to find laughter because it's fun. Like it's not just because it's fun. It's not just because it's like, the path that is less enjoyable. Like laughter has a scientifically proven, like legitimate positive effect on your body, like to a cellular level. Like it is it's releasing endorphins. It's like, it's boosting your immune cells. It's like, you know, infection fighting antibodies. Like it literally is like boosting your existence to laugh. Like it creates a chain reaction within the body that only helps, that only bolsters your health and your longevity, you know? So like, you don't have to, and for people that are out there that are like, oh, I don't have a good sense of humor. Like,
I like the voice you go to there. Yeah. Oh, well, listen, Wilbert, this is not funny at all.
Yeah, it's like, if you don't have people in your life that make you laugh, there are so many things that exist out there that can make you laugh. It's like, for me, I love stand-up comedy.
Oh, man. Isn't it the best?
It's so great. It's so great.
And the other thing most people don't realize about stand-up is like how difficult it is. Like, like you could have the best content. Like I've seen these guys with the best, like they're smart, they're writers, they have the great material, but the delivery is off. It's just like and vice versa. Some guys that are not funny at all, but the way they deliver, you know, like it's just.
Yeah, like Jim Carrey. I never thought Jim Carrey's stand up to me.
Yeah,
no, it's not that funny. But you watch him and you're like, okay, like this on paper, whatever. But like seeing you do it is great. Yeah. It's, I mean, but again, it's like there's stand up, there's sketch, there's silly shit that exists on the internet, like books, comic books. Like there's so many things that you can find to make you laugh.
Yeah. And you know, and also it kills a couple birds too with the, like, once again, the communities at times, but also the creative side too. Like one of our biggest connectors in med school was we had Med Show, where you create these skits that were, unfortunately,
you guys did that at your med school too. They do that at Dow. They do that at Dow Housing Med School.
Yeah, they do it everywhere. They canceled ours for a bit because we were a bit offside. Like we took things a little too far.
That's cool.
But
I thought that was something that was unique to Dow. I didn't realize that was like kind of a sort of tradition that all med schools go to. That's really neat.
No. And everyone does it to a different scale. Like some of them do it like almost like a performance. But ours was like, well, borderline like dirty sketch comedy. Like it was like half of us wearing clothes. It got
sweet.
Basically sweet. They canceled it for a few years after we were done. But yeah, you get that creative side, you get that community. The other thing I was going to say too about the tying in a lot of the stuff that you do is, you know, in terms of making room for clarity, like, or time for like a meditative practice, like it also enhances your creative side. You know what I mean? Like having that time to really digest and take a step back and not fill your schedule. Like think about how many times, like whether it's writing or guests you decide to have on your podcast, whatever, how many times it happens while you're just in the shower doing shit? You know what I mean? Like where you're just like, oh yeah, that'd be a great idea. Or I don't know, you're going on a walk with no tunes or some shit. Like, I don't know. Like it's an important part of, I think, for creating creativity. A couple other things I want to cover for sure, Jeremie, because you have a very unique perspective. We have a lot, like our target audience is healthcare providers, for real, like young healthcare providers, because they're going to change that boogie, make a difference in the world. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think you probably have a lot to say about navigating the system. Like, I think on your show, we were talking about how like a lot of stuff can get siloed. Like, if, you know, I don't know if, because you don't have a lot, I'm assuming you have a lot of specialists that you'll need to see, gastroenterologists, a respiratory specialists, all these things. Like, is there lessons or things that you'd want to tell the medical community to be able to improve the experience of whether it's CF or anybody with chronic disease?
You know, I love and hate that question. I hate that question because I feel like I don't have enough to offer that I should, mostly because, and I have to be really honest here, the majority of my experience when it comes to with healthcare providers has been amazing. The IWK was fucking amazing. the physicians, the specialists, everyone who I came in contact with there was amazing. Transitioning to the adult clinic was a scary, is a scary transitional process. But once I got in there, it was amazing. Like all the whole team is great. So I haven't had much issue with going through the system when it comes to like the CF clinic specifically. But one thing that I have noticed, especially after getting involved with Sickboy and kind of going down this road and having more and more opportunities to like speak at different conferences is just noticing the lack of digital health solutions. Like that's something that, you know, when we look at government and the way that government works, it's so fucking slow. Anything, you know, unless there's a goddamn global pandemic, anything that we want to see changed takes years and years and years because there's all these ladders and all these hoops that things got to go through. And it's just like a bureaucratic red tape bullshit mess. It seems to be the same way when it comes to public health. You know, there's these solutions that we could see or have that exist that, like, for example, this right here, what you and I are doing, we are sitting on Zoom, having a conversation. I see you, you see me. We've been talking for almost an hour. We're able to connect as humans, right? Mm-hmm. This is valuable. This is valuable for your podcast. This is valuable for me in terms of like, you know, starting my day. This is, I'm going to go off and have a great fucking day now because this is how I started it.
What's up?
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
You know, now let's take this scenario and apply it to somebody who needs to see or be heard by a healthcare professional. Well, this fucking super easy thing that not only can I do on this laptop I'm talking to you on, I could also do it from this computer that I have in my fucking pocket all the time.
Yep.
It's not possible. It's for some reason not possible in such large swaths of the country. Something so simple that I'm sure it's happening somewhere, but it's not happening here. It's not taking place at the CF clinic in Halifax.
It's 2020, y'all.
It's dude, we literally live, you know what? We live in the years after Blade Runner was set in. We literally live in the fucking future and we haven't figured this out. Give me a break.
I still have a physical pager, my friend.
Yeah, like that is crazy. A pager. That is crazy.
Fax machines in this month. Like it's ridiculous. You have hit the nail on the coffin. There's no excuses. No excuses.
There's no excuse. Yeah.
And like when it comes to yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jer.
Well, I was going to say, like, you know, I don't buy the argument that it's a financial thing, a financial burden.
It's a cost saver.
That's bullshit.
It's a cost saver.
Yeah.
At a hospital, at a societal level, for everybody. You're an employer. It's a cost saver. It's nonsense that we haven't adopted some of these technologies. Mm-hmm. And mind you, as you said, it took a pandemic to do this. Our fourth episode was on virtual health and be able to connect patients with through Zoom and what have you. Mm-hmm. And the tech is there. It's just the adaptation and the buy-in hasn't been there because it's for no good reason. Except for
not even to connect though. Not even to connect, but even from like a records perspective, you know, it's like you know, if someone moves from province to province to have their info, like, you know, everything's a click away. Everything in the world is a click away until it has to do with our healthcare records.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I don't know, like we're still fucking printing it and putting it in like a manila folder and putting it in a goddamn, you know, filing cabinet that exists in a basement somewhere. Come on. Like this, it's 2020. Like that is the one thing that like we really could see massive positive effect and change. And yeah, so like for the people coming up, for the people that are in med school, the people that are going to be going into the system. I mean, I know that someone who's like in their third year med school thinking that they want to be an internist is probably thinking, well, I don't know what I can do. Just
tell you what you
make
can
noise,
do.
make noise about it. You know, like the more noise you make, the more we're going to see change.
Yo, this is what this show's all about. Just don't accept it. Just there's no reason. If you want to see the change, be the example. Hey, I connected with my family through this platform that the other day virtually. It seems to be going well with that family. Hey, Doc Kyeremanteng, you want to try this out? Yes. Hey, maybe you should talk about it on your show. Yes. Maybe let's try and increase the awareness about this. Yes. Let's change that boogie. Stop complying just because your older preceptor said this is not the way to do it. No, man, hustle.
Yeah.
Patience.
We're beyond that.
Oh man. No, if we live in a time where we can see a vaccine get made and approved potentially in less than a year, you're goddamn you put it into perspective like that.
Get to a point where like, like that's crazy. That's wild. Like,
oh man. There's so many tooth bombs there. It's true. It's just a matter of being a priority and having that willingness to change and embrace innovation. And unfortunately, my environment colleagues, whatever you want to call it, is just there's roadblocks everywhere. But
it's old school thinking.
But we got to shake it up, yo. That's why you guys are listening now for real. Listen, Jerry, any parting words, like in terms of, like, once again, you have this unique perspective where you have a terminal illness. We're all going to die, as you mentioned before, but you've had to live with this with knowing this for 22 plus years. And I guess, is there any kind of maybe parting words that you'd want to say to people in terms of living their best life or having this perspective that you've appreciated?
Parting words.
Is that dark? Should I say parting words?
No, okay. No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just thinking about that now.
All of our, I mean, this might not be relatable to everyone, but I feel like it must be. All of our favorite television shows have a definitive end. Any TV show that doesn't have a finale just gets old and sucks after a while. It just gets tiresome, and you get over it, and we're done. The best shows, the best series, the best television series are the ones that have a really good definitive ending, a beginning, a middle, and end. And your series finale is right around the corner, just as mine is, just as everyone else's is. And so fucking live your life to be the best television series you could ever have been in. You're the star of your own show. Make it a good one. Make it worth watching. Make it something that HBO would want to put up and show their audience. Like, make it the most quality television you can make. I live my life through the lens of cinema. Like everything I do, I find the beauty of cinema in life. And that's one of the things that I like to think about is like, you know what, this is my series. It's going to have a season finale. The season finale is coming. It's going to go out with a bang, and everything that has been squashed within that small box set, that DVD box set, has been fun, fascinating, hilarious, sexy, scary, dramatic, beautiful, with a great soundtrack.
I love it. And, my series would be The Wire, personally, that I'd be aspiring for. But no, man, that's a great way to frame it, Jeremie. And I just want to celebrate you, my friend, because you're a gift, man. You truly are a gift to be able to bring this message, to bring this perspective to so many people. And, you know, we're going to do our part too, to be able to bring that message of live your life now, appreciate the ones that you love, laugh, you know, have that creative side. It's also important. And we love you, man. Thanks so much for doing this, my friend.
It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks, man.
Oh, one last thing, but where do we find you, dog? Where do we find more Jeremie Saunders and Sickboy flavor? Sorry, my.
No, it's all good. At Sickboy Podcast, wherever you know, all the socials, and at Jeremie Saunders, Jeremie with an IE, because I think my dad must have been smoking something when he named me Jeremie with an IE, middle name Sebastian. We're not. It's so French. There's not a French bone in our body. Anyway, at Jeremie Saunders.
Any accent aigu or accent grave in there?
No, God, no, none of that. That would just confuse things even more. Yeah, at Jeremie Saunders and at Sickboy Podcast.
Love you, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, dude.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Tell me that wasn't fresh. Jeremie Saunders, I love this guy, man. Let me tell you, you guys need to hear more of him on Sickboy and his crew. They're amazing. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Quadcast. If you want to leave any comments, leave them at quadcast99@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave a review or a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcast. That helps with the visibility of the show. Listen, guys, thank you so much. We love you all, and we'll connect again real soon. Peace.